Welcome back to the Uninkable Dads podcast. Tonight we've got a recap of the World Championships. We have our first ever Lorcana World Champion. We'll talk you through the news. We've got some. So everybody's waiting with bated breath for news about the competitive scene for organised play for Season 2. And we'll go through our week in the ink as always. I'm Grandad Glenn, and here he is, with me, my co-host, the only man that I know who watched the Worlds with a baby in one hand, notepad and pen in the other. He paused every top play and still thinks that his Emerald Steel aggro deck could have won the lot. He is the legend of low-cost chaos, captain of counter decks himself, FPS Madness.
I love that. The low-cost chaos. That's good. I like that one. Yeah, I reckon Green Steel could have done it. You know, no one took Green Steel aggro. Why is no one running Green Steel aggro? Maybe there's a reason. So have you been anyway?
Hot.
Yep.
Genuinely good, but yeah, for anyone who isn't in the UK, it's been hot. Probably hot by UK standards, not necessarily by other people's standards, but yeah,
Don't know. I think we'd give other countries a good run for its money this week. It's been in the 30s, isn't it? So it's been quite nice. So it's been lovely during the day and horrid at night, I think is the best way to describe it. So luckily for us, tonight seems to have cooled down a bit. You know, we're sitting in front of a computer, we've got to do this, but it seems to have cooled down that little bit. So
yeah, if this was last night, I'm not sure. I think I would have melted off the scene by the end of the podcast. Yeah.
Have you had much chance to play any games this week?
So yeah, I mean, I got quite a bit of chance actually. So obviously the Worlds was on. So Friday went to locals.
Yep.
That went all right. I come third.
Nice.
So Emerald Amethyst Tempo, not quite the list that we looked at on the last podcast. I'd gone a little bit more traditional, I guess. I'd taken out the Maleficent Staffs, but that ran pretty well. Yeah, we talked actually on the last podcast about die roll and how my online testing client was letting me go first all the time. And that changed big time on Friday. So I lost every die roll. But yeah, so that went all right. And then Saturday, obviously Worlds. So I went to a barbecue. There was 11 of us, I think, in total. So we had Worlds on the TV screen. We sat and played some, I'd say friendly games of Lorcana, but you know what our lot's like. It's pretty competitive when even if it's friendly. So people bought all sorts of different decks to try out and have a bit of fun with. Yeah, we had a bit of barbecue. So it was a good day. So yeah, I got quite a few games in on Saturday, which was great. I was able to test my deck and actually test Lily's deck a bit and sort of try against different decks, try some different lines, think about it. So that was really good. Yeah, and then Sunday, didn't get to play. We were down the beach, struggling with reception. I had to find excuses to kind of come off the beach and run up the road to where I could get some reception.
No worries, I'll go.
Yeah, trying to keep up with what was going on. And then did manage to have it on the drive back. So managed to catch up with some of it. But yeah, so it was pretty good. Haven't done a huge amount of testing since, but still reasonably happy with, you know, Emerald Amethyst as a list now. Also looking at a Blurple list and starting to try and decide what I want to play before Set Champs kicks off in less than a couple of weeks now.
Yeah. Not this weekend, next weekend. So yeah, it's not far away at all now. So crazy. That is. I don't know whether it started it early this time around or whether it's just the middle of the season's gone so fast. I don't know, but
Yeah, it could be.
yeah,
It feels
it does seem a
early.
bit.
Definitely feels early.
Yeah.
But how's about yourself?
Nice. Yeah, it's been pretty good. I had Friday was alright. I come full from Friday. Fortunately, the one game I lost a misplay. It was literally after the game. I worked out and I was like, well, could have won that. So I could have been 3-0. But yeah, the misplay cost me. But that wasn't too bad. And then Saturday was obviously Worlds. And you were right. I was, baby in one arm and notepad in the other. Not quite notepad. It was my phone, but close enough. Yeah, so just chilled Saturday. We had a nice chill day. I played the Palace Heist. That was the name of it. I had to look it up. I played that with Millie, so we played a few games of that and had Worlds on in the background and stuff. And then it was my other half's birthday on Sunday, so we went out for a meal on Sunday. And I dropped the kids back, and then I had basically an hour and 45 to, well, it was longer because Dartford was screwed. So I basically had a 2-hour drive back. So I basically had Worlds on coming through the car, and like my phone on the chair next to me, so that way I wasn't tempted to watch it. So I just had it face down on the thing next to me with the audio coming through. So the casters did a very good job. I managed to picture everything that was going on without actually having to watch it. So I basically listened to it for 2 hours on my way back, which was really nice. I got in at, it was about 6, 7, and then basically watched the end. So I managed to catch the last about 3 hours, I think it was, live, watched it on telly. And was obviously talking to everyone about it and stuff. But yeah, it was really good. Really good. And testing-wise, I haven't done much since Friday, so I need to get on that. But yeah. We got Friday. I can work it out then. So before we go into World, let's get last week's flavor text done. And then we can jump into a little bit of what happened over the weekend. Okay, so the flavor text from last week was the mixed ink had changed more than just the rose. So we tried to give you a slightly easy one for this week. And yeah, we had a couple of people get it right. It was Belle. Now, she's obviously featured in a few decks. She's in a couple of Ruby Amethyst decks and Blurpool. So yeah, she's doing well. She's getting a lot of play at the minute, Belle. So she's doing quite nicely. I do have this Belle in playmat as well, which does look very nice. So we will bring you this week's flavor text at the end of the video.
Talking of flavor text, for those that did tune into Worlds, you would have noticed that Baker is obviously a fan of the channel. Ravensburger obviously a fan of the channel because they decided to play the flavor text game. So,
yeah,
listen, you saw it here first, and then you saw it on the Worlds. They weren't very good at it. To be fair,
no,
I mean, got 1 out of 3.
I mean, some of those were extremely hard. In fact,
they were,
but yeah, I was sitting there watching it, thinking, "Oh, come on, I need to be able to get these." I was like, "I ain't got a clue."
Yeah, so, they were not going easy on them, were they?
No, definitely not. No, they definitely didn't have Belle. But yeah, talking of Worlds, obviously we now have our first Lorcana World Champion. So obviously DKP is our new World Champion. So yeah, congratulations to him. He's I watched it and he looked so calm and so chilled for someone who's playing in like the grand final of the World Championship. I mean, so chilled that he was like moving house during it.
Yeah. I thought they both did. Ed and if you'd have just someone stuck that on screen and you didn't really know, you could have thought that was a table at locals almost. To be honest, they both look so relaxed, which was great because they both seem to be enjoying the game, which is what it's all about, right? Yeah. Even though this is pretty high pressure stakes, because the goodies that DKP walked away with was, fair amount of moolah worth.
It's not even the Golden Mickey itself. Obviously the Golden Mickey's, it's worth a lot of money. But the thing is, the chances are he's never going to sell that. That stays with the trophy and that is part of the trophy. But it's more the fact he is the first Lorcana World Champion.
World Champion, yeah.
So it's like next World Champs, he's probably going to be there. Whether he makes it there or not, he's probably going to be there because he'll be the one who runs the trophy to the next person. And
he'll get sponsorship and invites.
That's it.
And
so it's not just
right?
what you win on the day; it's everything that comes with it. And but yeah, I think both players played unbelievably well. Ed's run leading up to the final was absolutely insane. I think he dropped one round, didn't he? Was it one?
Yeah, he dropped run round. So both of them ended up with only. No, because Ed hadn't dropped around. Ed obviously lost in the final.
That was his only he didn't drop around. I think he only dropped one game. One game,
right? Yeah.
So bearing in mind that was 7 games, and then the top 8 and top 4. So that's 9 games where he only dropped one. 9 rounds where he only dropped one game is insane. For something that where they're taking 3 decks and working out what's banned and what's keeping and stuff. He obviously did it so well, and he was unlucky in a way. But I think DKP just very, very smartly. From what I could tell, I saw a little message from him about his decks, and basically his idea was that he is known for the red-blue deck. The deck is called the DKP deck for a reason. And he knew that most people would just auto-ban red-blue because that's his deck, so therefore they don't want him playing it. So he just took 2 very fast aggro decks and was like, well, you're not going to be able to deal with both of these. If I ban the right deck of yours, I don't care about your aggro because I'll just put my aggro against yours. Mine should be slightly quicker. I'm not too worried. Which is exactly what he did in most of the rounds leading up to the final. Whenever they banned red-blue, he just basically aggroed them out and won. And then obviously in the final, he's actually getting to play his deck that he's known for. And yeah, I think it was a very, very smart call, and it obviously worked out for him. So
yeah, cool. So for those that either didn't catch Worlds or need a bit of a recap of it, we started with 28 players. So it was going to be a format that was set up to really look for the best all-round player of Disney Lorcana. So the first 3 rounds were something called Super Sealed, where they opened a bunch of packs from each of the sets and had to make a 50-card deck with a maximum of 3 ink colours in it. And then after that, we had what was called Triple Constructed, which is, as FPS Madness was saying there, you had 3 decks. Those 3 decks had to cover the 6 ink colours without duplication. So you could have Amber Steel, Emerald Amethyst, Ruby Sapphire, something like that, but you couldn't have Emerald Amethyst and Blurple, right? So you had the 6 ink colours. You got the opportunity to bench one of your opponent's decks. So you looked at their 3 decks. It was open deck list, so you knew what was in the decks, and you said, no, you can't play that against me. And they said the same to you. And then of the 2 decks that you had left, you had to win with both of those decks. So if you won with one deck, you then put that away, and then you had to play with the other deck, and you had to win. So that was the case until the final, where in the final all 3 decks were played. There was no benching, and it was best of 5. So we sort of spoke about this last week and who we thought, and players like Zan Saeed came to mind, Frank Carsten as these really all-round players. And it was interesting because a lot of people had said, well, I've only really seen DKP play red-blue. Does he know how to play other decks? Well, yeah, he answered that pretty emphatically. But after 3 rounds of sealed, we had 4 players that were all 3-0. So Zach Bivens, Raphael Brulé, Ellie Vipierre, and Edmund Chu. So notably, Mo Shamblin was a player who actually lost his first 2 rounds. He was 24th on 1-2 after sealed. But, well, explain later he came back really well from that. DKP lost his first round. So there you go, the worst possible start, and still ended up as world champion. So we get to round 4. So Ed Chu beat Zach. So that was quite a big match there. Kurt Spice beat Frank Carsten. And then it was 5 wins took you through. So rather than playing a fixed number of Swiss rounds and the top cut from there goes through, you kept playing rounds until 8 players had won 5, or
you got
to the end of the rounds and then took the best.
Yeah, obviously, I think they worked it out via Swiss that it was always going to be 5 or above to get through. So it didn't make sense the players continuing to play 2 people against 5 and then 2 people on 6 and 2. It just didn't really make sense. So I think that's why they did the whole once you've got 5, you're through sort of thing. Which was nice in a way because it made it really easy for viewers at home to understand. It's like Melee can be very confusing sometimes. That's one thing I'll talk about in a sec. But it can be. You look at it and it could be really, really confusing on what's going on. So to make it easy, especially for viewers, is so they hit 5 to 3. It was really nice and simple and easy to track, which was good.
Yeah. And so after 4 rounds, we had Ellie V. Pierre on 4-0 and Ed Chu on 4-0. Ellie then found life difficult at the top. So not surprising for anyone who doesn't know how Swiss works. You basically round 1 you're paired at random, and then in the following rounds you are paired with somebody that has a similar record to you, whom you haven't played before. So that meant that Ellie had to play Ed Chu in round 5, DKP in round 6. So tough matchup. And it ended up losing rounds 5, 6, and 7. And having been 4-0, ended up bubbling in by less than 2% on countback. So he had an equal record with the person in 9th place. And then it goes to looking at your opponent's win percentages. And literally 2% scraped him in. So that must have been pretty bit of a nervous last few rounds for Ellie. We saw some really varied deck lists. I think one of the things that we've been talking about in the run up to this was, would everyone take Amber Steel, Emerald Amethyst, and Ruby Sapphire? And the top 8 was not that at all. It was quite varied actually. So it was nice to see some different deck lists.
I think this is where the whole thing of being able to ban a list and stuff comes in, and it was just going to get auto banned straight away, wasn't it? And it's difficult if you're Amber and Steel both being banned. It doesn't leave you much really, unless you want to do red, blue, and green, purple, which are 2 slow decks. If someone like DKP, for instance, where they've got 2 aggro decks, you can only ban one of them. So the other one's always going to get the win up against those decks. So I think that's why people obviously didn't go Amp Steel, because they knew it was an auto ban, which kind of makes sense. So I think there was a couple people on it, I think, but not many.
And I think the ones that are on it tended to be on the aggro version of it, I think, more than the songs package. But what was interesting, I thought, was the tactic that hadn't particularly occurred to me, but was that you could take a deck that you would only play going first. You couldn't quite guarantee you'd always play it going first, but you could take a deck in where if it didn't get benched and you were going first, you played that deck. If not, you play your other deck. Yeah, and then if you
lose, then you play
get to go first. So you switch, you play that deck. So you could pick a deck that was just lightning fast. Is going to win a good percentage of the time going first, but may not be very good going second. But you could still pick that deck, and if you were clever about the way you worked it out, you could basically be playing that going first most of the time. And a few people seem to do that, which was quite interesting. So top 8 we had Ed Chu with Zach Bivens in second place, Luca Lazara, DKP, Federico Marinangeli, who is the gentleman who won Birmingham in the UK, Lucas Cowper, Mo Shamblin, as I say, so great run from him, having lost his first 2 rounds. He then won his next 5 to claw himself back into the top 8.
Did you hear why he won his 5?
I don't know if I heard that he'd had some really tragic news just before.
Okay.
Is that related? No? Okay, so he'd had some... Okay, so maybe there's 2 stories here then. So he'd really sadly lost his dog of 15 years.
Okay.
I think like literally the day before the tournament. So, commiserations to him, but, awesome robustness of mind, really, to be able to still come out, still perform incredibly well. But no, obviously there's another story I haven't heard.
Yeah, well, I think it was obviously what he said on stream. He said he lost the first 2, went over to speak to his wife, and his wife went, "Stop losing," and then he went back in and just won from there.
You got to do what the wife says.
That's it. She said, "Stop losing," and he went, "All right, fine. That's what I got to do." Oh, okay, I get it now. And come out and went from 0-2 to day 2. So yeah, he did really well.
Awesome. Yeah, so that was a great story. And Elie Vipierre was in 8th place. So seedings mattered. If you were the higher seed, you got to go first. So no die roll. I think it was so Elie down in 8th place wasn't going first in any of the top 8 ones, but I don't think that mattered for him because earlier in the day he'd sat down against Ed Chu. Ed rolled a 3. Elie picked up the dice and rolled a 2. So
yeah.
The
dice weren't on his side.
They definitely weren't. Then we had a lightning fast semi-final. I mean,
yeah, just a bit.
Ed Chu was obviously, I don't know, wanting a break before the finals or something, but he sat down against Lucas Lazara, and I actually watched this back and made sure I got the timings. So Ed opened with Amber Steel against Lucas Ruby Amethyst and won in 4 minutes. It was just man on a mission. And then Ed went for Red Blue, so traditionally quite a slow deck, with Luca playing Amber Steel. So Amber Steel had just blitzed a control deck, switch it around, and Ed playing the control. It was a bit more respectable, but 7 minutes. So yeah,
even then, it's one of those ones of, how Ed didn't win it, I do not know. The amount of luck he had that day with the top decks and everything else, I was like, it should have just been his. It was like top deck Sisu followed by top deck the Maui into another Maui, but it was exactly what one of our local players who plays Red Blue says is on the item build. You don't care if Daisy's on board because she's just putting stuff that you can't play to the bottom. It's like, I think there was one term where the workshop went to the bottom of the deck, and even the casters, they were like, "Oh my god, he's lost the workshop. That's a key part of the deck." And it's like, it is, but not against Amber Steel. You don't want to be taking a turn off to draw 4 cards. You haven't got time to do that. And it proved, I think 2 items and B-Brett went to the bottom, which led him onto his Sisu at the right time. So it was one hell of a game. It's definitely one of those ones. If you've got spare 11 minutes, go back and watch that because it was seriously impressive. It really was.
Then DKP overcame Zach Bivens in the semi-final. interesting decisions there from Zach. He didn't bench the red blue.
Mm.
He wasn't asked in the interview afterwards whether he felt that was a regret. He did say that he felt there was a misplay in his first game. He didn't say which it was, but he felt there was a misplay that could have changed things. But yeah, I wonder if afterwards, on reflection, he would have benched
I'm trying
red blue.
to think, because who did he play?
Played DKP.
Because that was the game where he had his Ruby Amber deck, wasn't it?
Ruby Amber and Amethyst Steel.
Yeah, and I think it was the same sort of thing that because he won the Ruby Amber, and it was so quick, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But where he didn't bench the red blue, the red blue into his purple steel, I think it was.
Purple Steel, it was, yeah.
Was just the perfect control we needed to obviously take that game. And then aggro versus aggro, purple steel versus purple steel, but the broom version of purple steel, which no one saw coming, was just so much quicker, and he just couldn't answer it. So, I mean, that's a tough call. You know, would you say, "Oh, I'll bench your purple steel over red blue"? It's like, yeah, that's a tough call. That is a really tough call, especially since he was playing two relatively fast decks. You would have thought leaving red blue would be a pretty solid choice, but yeah,
that's fair. But it's a shame. I was really rooting for Zach at that point. And then Ed tuned DKP in the final, which to be honest was just so fitting. I mean, DKP had played on 3 continents in challenges to get there. Ed Chu has he's shown his worth with different decks into different metas. So, both players that played a phenomenal amount of Lorcana proven themselves consistently in the finals. And it didn't disappoint, did it? I mean, what a finals. It went to 5 games.
That was nice. It was nice seeing all 5, I think. It would have been a bit of a... After how quick that semi-final game was with Ed, I think if that had gone the similar route of the whole thing's over in like 15 minutes, we would have been like, what was that?
Climax, yeah.
Yeah, so it was good. It was a proper battle between them, wasn't it? It was very back and forth all the way through. So, yeah,
it's really
definitely.
good. I mean, we were saying sort of before coming on air that they both look so chilled as well. They just, which was really nice to see that they really enjoyed playing the game, even though it was very high stakes.
I mean, he was so chilled. He was moving Maui from mana to mana just for the fun of it.
I mean, for me, that was play of the weekend. To be honest, I mean, you're in the World Finals. You got 3 ink left. So what do? Well, you pay an ink to move Maui into mana. It does nothing, but there you go. Oh, and then you pay an ink to move Maui out of that mana into the other mana, and then why not spend the final ink to move Maui from that mana back to the first mana?
I mean, you've got to use up all your ink, There's no point wasting ink. We don't currently have anything in Lorcana that you need to save your ink, unless you're playing Go-Go. There's a couple of cards that you need them, but, in general, there's nothing you need to save your ink for, so you might as well make sure you're using it all, so...
Absolutely. So yeah, that was a really fun moment actually, which was nice to see in the middle of a competitive world finals that you can still have fun with this game.
Yeah.
And then from the play of the day, play of the weekend, we had the absolute misplay of the tournament. Thankfully, DKP went on to win it. Otherwise, he could have been ruining this for a very, very long time. But it just goes to show, even the very, very best in the world, the Lorcana World Champion, still makes these mistakes. I can only think it was the moment that he was in. Maybe not so much the pressure actually, because he didn't seem to be flustering under pressure, but just being in that moment. Because he did all the right things.
It was almost like it was too calm, if that makes sense. Like it not focusing properly. Like it was just like it was so chill. Like you say, it was like a game at locals. You know, you wouldn't know. So
Yeah. So he did the right things. He picked the card up. The card was Rhino Power Hamster, I think it is. He picked the card up. He read the card. Now he didn't read the card because he didn't know what the card did. Right? This is the world champion. He perfectly knew what the card did, but he wanted to double check. Rhino has resist +2 on it, which means it takes 2 less damage from any kind of challenge. And I
when
think
it's undamaged.
Only when it's undamaged, yeah. So I think his intention, it's a 4-3. So his intention then was, I think, to challenge with Pete, which is a 3-3. Pete would have been banished, but you'd have taken that resist off of Rhino and reduced it to 2 willpower, and then play Fire the Cannons, and that would have dealt with Rhino. He unfortunately announced them in the wrong order, and so therefore he played Fire the Cannons first, which did nothing. Because of the 2 resists, basically that 2 damage just bounced straight off of Rhino, and then because he'd announced the Pete has to challenge in anyway. Pete dies, and again Rhino is undamaged, so it's got the resist. So Rhino just loses its shield basically, and takes 1 damage. So to say in the end,
he was a little bit lucky. He had another Fire Cannons in hand, so therefore he used that one to finish the Rhino off, but he could have used that to put 2 damage on the beast, which would have stopped a card draw. So, like I say, it was very lucky it didn't actually affect the game, but it shows these little tiny little things. You know, doing things out of order do make a difference, especially when you're dealing with resist. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last. I've done it.
No, absolutely.
In my head, I've gone, right, so that and that deals with that, and then I've gone that, and then gone, no, it needs to be a way around. You know, I've done it plenty of times.
No take backs in the world finals.
Oh, definitely not. No.
Can I? Yeah. No. So yeah, and then the final game came down to, as you said earlier, something I don't think any of us would have seen coming. I think we'd have sat here a couple of weeks ago and went, yeah, so the world champion is going to win the Lorcana World Championships with brooms. Who would have all been told to get, just head out of the room, really, leave the adults to have a conversation. But he did. He won it with a broomstick. Yeah,
which is, no one saw coming. I think the price of Yensid has skyrocketed. How many times are we going to see that over set champs now? Yensid's going to be out there. You're going to see it in so many set champs decks. It's going to be unbelievable. But talking about, surprising decks, we did see some puppies.
We did, actually, didn't we? Yes.
Yeah. We saw some puppies with Zach. Zach Burns bought some puppies. And I think for me, one of the plays that I saw that won someone the game was Zach's move with the puppies, where he had I can't remember the name of them now, but the 1-cost one that comes in with Ward. He then played Daisy and something else turn 2, and then shifted onto the puppy with the bodyguard.
Yeah.
At that point,
Thunderbolt, is it?
Yeah, Thunderbolt. At that point, I can't remember who he was playing, but his opponent was also in an aggro deck, so it was basically a race. Neither of them could really deal with much else themselves. It was basically who could get to 21st. And everyone was like, just quest, what are you doing? You've got a bodyguard, he can't take you out. And he didn't quest. He used both of those to basically take out the opposing Daisy, which then everyone, at the moment, I was thinking, why on earth has he done that? You've just lost 4 lore there. And then very quickly realised that from that point onwards, he was always questing for more than his opponent was, because they lost the Daisy, they lost something else. So therefore, he was always ahead, and he had the 7 willpower bodyguard that they had to get through first before they could do anything. So from that point onwards, he was always in front. There was nothing his opponent could do. So I was like, fair enough, makes sense. That literally won you that game by taking that one turn and going, no, I don't need this lore right now. I need to take out yours, so that way each turn I'm questing for more than you are, instead of it being level. and then one of us wins by whoever can get like the one character that's got the extra lore, or something like that. So yeah, that was quite an interesting play, and definitely one I'll have to remember. Something like that, always think about, if you're in that sort of situation where you're in an aggro race as such, do I need to quest right now, or do I need to deal with that board? Is a very important point. Okay, so from Worlds, obviously we had a little bit of news. So the first news is we now have some confirmed dates and times for the next season of Worlds.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I know. Second season. Let's get World Champion 2026. Uninkable Dads will be there. We've got to put these things out there. You never know. So we now know who's where we're going. Well, not going. So North America, unfortunately, have been cut down. Last year they had 6 events in North America and 1 in Canada. Now the Canada one's been cut, and they only have 3. So they have Milwaukee, Richmond, and Indianapolis, all in the top right-hand side of America. There was quite a few events in the left and the bottom left-hand side of America last year, so I think they're trying to balance it as much as they can. As far as I'm aware, these are all 3 new places. I don't think we went to any of these last year, so I think they are trying to spread it out as much as they can. Obviously, they've got China, Japan, Brazil. I think that was it. There might be one other new one to try and fit in. So there's a lot going on for that. Obviously, the World Championship, which is obviously where these lot will the top. I think it's top 8 or top 4. Can't remember exactly, but the top from each one of these will end up playing against each other to find out who is the North American champion. And then in Europe, we have Bologna. I can't pronounce that, so I'm not going to try. 1 in Belgium and 1 in Dortmund, Germany. So unfortunately, that are the only ones for the EU. We have lost
None in the UK.
The UK. So Belgium's new. We didn't go to Belgium last year. We had France last year, and we had UK, and we've lost the UK. So we've got Italy and
yeah, I mean, Europe's a big place. There's a number of countries in Europe that play Lorcana. Yeah. So yeah, you can only put on so much, but obviously it is a blow. There's no way of saying it's not a blow, right? That the UK tournament, UK challenge sold out last year. It was an absolute blast to be there. It was just such a good weekend. So not having it is a real blow. Now, obviously, Belgium is quite easy to get to from the UK, but there's a difference if you are going, especially if you're going with family. I took my granddaughter to Birmingham. That was a fantastic weekend. She loved it. I enjoyed the weekend so much more for having her there, to be honest. But I don't think I'd take her across to Belgium. I think it's a very different trip. Although
it's not undoable.
It's another country. It's definitely not doable. But yeah, it is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it's going to make things a lot harder. Obviously, there's a lot of people that probably went to Birmingham last year that were, they were pushing their limit, being able to go. There might have been families that have taken like 2 or 3 kids. There was a lot of kids there. There was a lot of people that went because they love the game and just wanted to experience it. Whereas there's a difference between loving the game and wanting to experience it and traveling to Belgium to play. You have to be slightly more invested in the game to be able to say, I'm doing a 5-hour drive to Belgium. It's like, if I want to go, I will probably try and go this year if I can, but it makes it more awkward. If it was in Birmingham again, 100% I'd take Millie, I'd take the kids, we'd try and, maximise it for them. Whereas Belgium, I have to really look at it because we're now, if we're going to go to Belgium and do an Airbnb and share amongst us all again, to make it even more cheaper, because we've now got to do a 5-hour trip, we might be trying to condense as many people into that as possible. Whereas last time it was like we could afford to, you know, I can say you and Lily come and stuff like that, so we can spread it out a bit. So it makes everything a little bit harder. And I feel sorry for the people that, like you say, went because of the love of the game, who unfortunately won't be able to go this time around. But we do have the European Championship, which isn't announced yet, and we're pretty much all crossing our fingers and toes and everything that this is going to be in the UK. It's possible, but I think it's unlikely. I think it's probably going to end up being in France, mainly because Disney's there. They held it at Disney last year. They will probably hold it at Disney again this year. I'll be surprised if they don't. I mean, we're talking September 26th anyway, so we're well over a year away.
It'd be the place to hold it. And to be fair, France has got a very big Lorcana community.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the one thing everyone said from this is, why is it no France? Because they're massive as well. But, you know, there's a small chance. Obviously, we do have our new supported events. So there is one going on in Cardiff September this year, which sold out the day the tickets got released. I think it was like a 256 player cap, and it sold out instantly. You know, you can have so many people in the UK who are really desperate to go to big events, and unfortunately that literally sold out instantly. So you didn't even have time to, you know, think about it and work out travel. It was like, you either buy a ticket or you don't. We do have another one coming up in November. There's a lot of speculation that it might be an Action event, as you know, they are the next biggest ones that do events. I don't think it will be, but there's a chance.
Yeah, we've got to see what these are, but you know, the news is that you know, Disney Ravensburger are going to be supporting some third-party tournaments to kind of make up for the fact that there's, I was going to say less challenges. There aren't less challenges, are there?
No, there's
more spread across the globe, right?
I think there's actually more challenges. It's just,
But, you know, because of the fact, so in the UK there's nothing, but they will actually be supporting some of these third-party events. So you will get exclusive promos and potentially other prizing.
I think it's basically they're funding the prizing,
available.
aren't they? So they you know, they're giving in promos and
it might allow things like I know we've had like Disney artists and things at third-party events anyway, but I guess it makes it easier.
Yes,
for someone connected
it's easier for
with
them
Disney
to get
or whatever to go along and be comfortable at representing because it's now an official event. So we look forward to those. We don't know what the size of those is. I think there's still going to be a big gap, as you say. 256 was the cap for the celebration event, as I think they termed it.
Yeah.
Now, whether they change that, given
that's
how
it, they might realise
out,
and, you know, look at a venue or something and then expand. But currently, it's sold out, and
because to me that's the gap, right? The challenge event was 2,000 players. It was just the scale of that made it something really special. And I don't think going to a 200 player event that is supported with some Lorcana prizing, it doesn't fill the gap for me. I think there's still a big gap. But if they could push that up and get that somewhere towards the 1,000 player,
that's it.
You know, I think that would.
If it can get up to the 1,000 player, it doesn't replace DLC as such, but it will. It's enough for those people that love the game that really want to experience a big event. You could still do that, and then if you are the player that, you know, you think you might have a chance of maybe not getting to Worlds, or maybe you do think you can get to Worlds, you know, but anyone that might think, well, I can make the top 32, for instance, of this year, you know, I can make the top 64 of the entire year, you know, and go to these North American Championships and the European Championships, then that's where you go to DLCs. Whereas if you just want to do the fun side of it and do the side events and stuff like that, then that could be where we end up with is the supported events, but they've got to get a lot bigger. Like I say, 200 players is you're missing out on the atmosphere of it. Also, one other thing on these is Indianapolis and Dortmund are the third one in the series, so therefore they're infinity. They're not even core constructed; they're full infinity. So, which is interesting. I thought they might. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. To have a whole
No,
set champs,
it's
which is infinity, is very, very strange. But I
yeah.
mean, I
think,
get they're trying to push it, but
and they're making it a big side events at the other one. So, which
that
is
makes
partly,
sense.
yeah, absolutely. So there's partly a look. Don't worry about rotation. You're still going to have a great opportunity to
Mm.
use your cards. And I think, and I guess to make, as you say, to make a statement really that Infinity is a
It's here to
valid
stay.
format, they're making it challenge. But again, it's a bit strange if you are in Germany
Yeah,
and you are a
your
competitive player
challenge
in
is
Germany.
infinity.
That's your challenge. It's
I mean, one thing it does do is it helps balance the pricing because there was a lot of worry about what's going to happen when rotation comes in. You know, are the prices of the first four sets either going to massively drop off because no one wants it anymore? Are they going to rise because people want to, get hold of certain cards and keep hold of them? And with this, people are just going to hold on to stuff now. You know, when there's a whole challenge based around infinity, people are going to hold it. So therefore, the prices are going to hold their value. They're not going to drop, which is a good thing for the game. Because if your cards dropped off massively every 4 months, you're not going to invest it into
no,
as much.
that's true.
Whereas if they're going to hold the value because Infinity is such a big thing, and they're obviously pushing it to be such a big thing, that hopefully that should help the card value remain in long term, which is good. Having a whole DLC round Infinity, I'm not sure. But you might find it works really well. You know, that it's going to be a completely different meta, that's for sure. So it could be really, really interesting. And I like the way it's the last one, not the first one, because I think if it was the first one, I think it wouldn't work because you'd have this massive meta change and then it'd be like it change again and then change again. Whereas it's like these two are the normal ones, and then it's like, right, we'll finish this off with Infinity now, sort of thing. So be interesting to see. But so yeah, sorry, go on.
I was going to say I'll let you get to the end. Actually, get to the end of this page, and then
Yeah. So obviously they're
talk about
doing
the.
day one is early checking and side events, which last time they didn't do side events, it was only early checking, so that's nice. You can get in there, try and get yourself a few extra prize tickets over the weekend. You get 8 rounds of Swiss on day one. Best of 3 now, not best of 2, which is a massive, massive improvement.
Just say that again.
Yeah, best of 3. You know,
Best of 3.
Dice rolls
Best
matter.
of 3 is back.
As far as I'm aware, they are still looking at best of 2, but they've obviously agreed that no one really likes it at the minute, so they've gone back to best of 3.
So they've said they're taking a deeper look at the format, which I noted that if any of you watched the Forbidden Mountain, which is an excellent YouTube channel, I think the comment on there was that sounds rather like corporate speak for
We messed
winning
up.
it, but we don't want to admit we were wrong. Yeah,
We'll have a look. And then to keep people around, which is quite smart, is day 2 is 4 rounds of Swiss, and then the top cut. So beforehand,
I
it
like
was.
that so much.
I
like
do.
that so much
It
because
gives you a reason to stay.
Yeah, I mean Birmingham was great, but we didn't do a great deal on the Sunday. I mean, to be honest, we knackered after Saturday, but
Yeah.
I would have, if there were 4 more rounds, I'd have been absolutely up for 4 more rounds on the Sunday. Again, you're talking if you're going with kids or whatever. Lily wasn't after entering another a tournament, and there was the additional cost.
Yeah.
You had to pay to enter the extra tournament. So we played a bit of side games, but I wasn't overly.
Obviously, you're going to get a lot of
impressed at the
people who are
side
going to
offence.
drop, but you're still going to
But
end up with a lot of people who are like, well, we're here for the Sunday anyway, you might as well play it.
I love that. And you can have had a really rubbish day on the Saturday, results wise, and you can treat it as a little mini. Okay, Sunday's a new day. I've got 4 rounds to play. How many of these rounds can I win?
Exactly, especially when, you may not be at that level where you're going to get top cut, but you might be at that point where, well, if I win these 4 games, I could get the prize tickets I need to get what I want.
Yeah.
So being able to take that respite, go away, really just relax and go back into it could be the difference between you getting those prizes and not. So, and I'm glad they didn't try and
5
slam
wins is
12 rounds in one.
Oh yeah, 12 rounds in a day. That'd be harsh. But 5 wins as well as a promo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you might get those 5 wins in the first 8 rounds on Saturday. Great if you do, but if you don't, if you've got 4 wins, out of your 8 rounds, you've still got something to come back, and you're like, I've got four rounds tomorrow. I win one of them, I pick up a promo.
Well, even if you win the first round on day one and lose the rest of them, you're technically still in a chance.
Yeah.
You've still got 4 more rounds to go. So, and then obviously it's top 32 elimination, best of 3, grand finals be best of 5. So yeah, from that we've also got a little sneak peek of
The digital client. Yeah. We got news. We got a digital client.
No, unfortunately.
There we go.
But we do have a picture of the promos. So we have
They're pretty.
They are. So the Pegasus is the participation prize. So that is basically last year's Dragonfire. Mulan for, like I say, win 5 rounds, and the top 64 will get a Simba. One thing I did notice is obviously this Simba here does say set 9, which obviously means that Simba Pegasus is being reprinted in Fabled. All these 2 are actually the set they come out, so that's 8 and that's 6. But this one does say set 9, so that is a little bit of
Is that the Pegasus? That's
yes.
Set 9. Ooh, okay.
So Pegasus is being confirmed for Fabled.
That is a pretty card. I mean,
it is.
That might be worth a trip to Belgium just to be honest, to pick that card up. That is a really, really
I like the new
nice
borders as well now.
It's a playable card.
These pictures don't do these justice either, by the way. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a high resolution photo of these, but if you manage to see one, they are really, really nice looking. And then that was kind of it from Worlds, really.
So, and I say we haven't got a digital client, which we haven't. No news. But obviously the Ravensburger Play Hub is up, and actually we used that at our locals on Friday. I thought it would work pretty well. I like the interface. I like the interface better than Melee. To be honest, I thought that looks really smart.
See, now this was one that I stopped myself from talking about earlier, but as we're on the topic, I found it very, very, very strange that they build this whole program about this is our play hub, come use this, and then they run Worlds on Melee. But
yeah.
I think it kind of proves that they don't think it's quite up to standard to run major tournaments just yet. I think they would have been on it, but it's also, I know that there are certain websites that use Melee data to track stuff, so I don't know whether they wanted to finish that season on Melee and then therefore going forward it would be on the new one.
True.
But yeah, the new one's really nice. It's very user friendly. If your name's in green, you won. If it's in red, you lost.
Yeah,
you can't,
I liked it. The interface was really, really easy to use. Yeah.
So there's a few bits that I feel are missing currently, but I think they will come over time. So, but yeah,
I love the fact that you can have a child on a child account as well, and when you check in for the tournament, you can just automatically check both of you in, rather than having to get onto a child's phone or child's email and check them in separately and stuff. So that was really well thought about, which was great. So it seemed to work all right. I don't think we had any real glitches with it. And it looked really good. So hopefully that's something for the future. And obviously with their own app means they will be collecting their own data, right? So they
hopefully we might get meta reports and stuff eventually.
We might do. And also just in terms of, we're all saying, well, we wanted to challenge in the UK, we wanted to challenge here, we want bigger tournaments. Well, they'll have the data on what the player base is, right?
Yeah.
So that should really help them going forwards to say, yeah, actually,
this area's busy.
We
this
can
isn't...
put 1,000 player tournament on here.
Yeah.
Or actually, no, in this area, we're better supporting third party, smaller events because there's a player base, but it's maybe not gonna fill a big stadium. So yeah, hopefully that will give them a lot of information.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's only going to be, if anything, it's always going to help. Them being able to see that and not control it as such, because they're not doing anything to the thing while you're using it, but being able to have that information is only going to be good. So I think once the website's up and running and got more and more stuff that allow it even better and easier for players, I think it's just going to be a much improvement and be something that's really used all the time. Be nice if there's an online client to go with it, but can't have it all.
We hope. Yeah, so if you haven't registered yet, hop over. Is it tcg.
tcg.ravensburgerplay.com.
Ravensburgerplay.com.
Yeah.
So you find it or Google it. But hop over on there. Obviously, it's first comes, first served in terms of usernames. So if you've got a particular username you want to nab, get across, make sure that you nab it. Get yourself set up. You will be using it for locals. Going forwards, you absolutely will be using it for set champs from Reign of Jafar on. So do hop over and do that. I mean, the search works, which is awesome. So that was one thing that really used to drive me a bit nuts on Melee.
Yeah, it's quite nice being able to type in our area and seeing all the set champs coming up. It's quite nice.
So I used to type it into Melee and say, give us stuff within 20 miles of this postcode, and it'd be sending me off to France and Germany. It was really hard to actually just work out who got set champs on in the area. But the official Lorcana one seems to work really, really well.
Okay, so it's time for this week's flavor text, and as it's Worlds, we're going into a new season. We're going to give you a nice, easy, simple one this time round. Let us know if you know the flavor text, and a bonus point for anyone who can tell me who says this. So the flavor text is: his name is Pegasus, and he's all yours. So the flavor text might be a little bit easier, but who's reading out that? So let us know in the comments below, and we'll reveal it on next week's. Okay, so we are coming towards the end of the episode, but next week we will be going through prepping for set champs, because we're in that time again. We'll be going through a couple of deck lists on what we think could be a good shout for set champs, especially with the new Yensid that might be floating around everywhere. But yeah, for this week I think we're all done, unless there's anything else, anything you want to bring up.
Well, we've had our sort of chat about what we thought for of the news for season 2 of organised play. But let us know your thoughts. What do you think? So pop your comments in the chat below. Let us know if you're excited by the 3-round format, 3-game format coming back, or are you going to miss the 2-game format? Are you pleased at where the challenges are located, or do you feel you're missing out? What do you think Ravensburger need to do to fill that gap where there aren't challenges? So, let us know in the comments. We have a bit of a community discussion on Organised Play Season 2. And let us know your thoughts on the Worlds. Were you surprised to see Brooms win? What were your
I wasn't
favourite
surprised about DKP,
plays?
but Brooms definitely threw me off. So that is it for today's episode, and don't forget, we will be at the Essex Card Show this weekend, so if you are there, please come over, find us, give us a shout. We're probably wearing our t-shirts, so you should be able to find us. And yeah, that is it for this week. So it is time to wrap up that playmat.
Pack away the dice.
And remember, stay uninkable. See you next
at the
time.
card show.
Ah.